But right now it's time for us to get inside of the big story. And we're looking at the Prime Minister's presentation in the budget debate as he did yesterday. The Jamaican government has announced plans to increase the loan limit for National Housing Trust NHT contributors, allowing individuals to borrow up to 9 million Jamaican dollars. The government also plans to pursue a $350 million project to extend the North-South Highway. Prime Minister Dr. Andrew Holness emphasized the need for fiscal buffers and highlighted Jamaica's resilience in the face of economic crisis. And having said that, we want to welcome our guests. We have with us this morning political analyst Kevin O'Brien Chang and public commentator joining us as well, Donovan Wignall. Good morning, gentlemen, and welcome to the program. How are you doing today? One second here. Let me just make sure that one second, gents. Let me just make sure that my connections are the way they ought to be. I think we'll be able to hear them now. Kevin, are you there?
Yeah, man. You hearing me?
Yeah, I'm hearing you now, Kevin. Donovan, are you there?
Yeah, man. I'm here. Hearing you loud and clear.
Okay, great. Donovan, let me start with you. Your thoughts?
I thought you'd introduce the show with Best Baby Father in Jamaica, man.
Best Baby Father.
after that thing yesterday, giving paternity.
We'll get to that. It's a Shabarang song. Best Baby Father is appropriate, right?
Well, that's what the man I'm argue.
Oh boy, that was a. Some people are saying in some quarters it was a master stroke, but it was quite funny. And even if not everybody found it funny, Donovan, did you find it funny? And what are your thoughts on the Prime Minister's presentation?
Well, the first thing I would say that it was long, but it was comprehensive. And if you look at it in the context of the debate, he did well. He addressed all the points, and of course, the baby father argument, with both parties trying to claim paternity to some history there. I think now you have to think, who is actually giving you the correct story. But all in all, I think most of the presentation, I guess, for people who are listening on the ground, would have people who are listening for the bread and butter issues. We're in election mode now. So productivity and the bread and butter issues would have taken center stage. And I think he did well to address those. I think the whole housing matter, this is something I've spoken about on every single radio station that I've been asked this question about budget debates and what the government should be doing. Mm-hmm. I think both parties made a fair attempt at addressing that housing problem. But the government, being the party in power, actually has the ability to fix that problem. My only disappointment with it is that it took us the penultimate year of the party being in power for them now to address this particular matter, which should have been addressed a long time ago. Mm-hmm. It would have been something that would have ticked off in the box as promise made, promise kept. But now it can't be a promise anymore because Housing Trust is an entity that has the money to do the thing and is now giving instruction that it be done. Better late than never. But definitely a step in the right direction. I think the whole thing about MSME and the micro parks, MSMEs need spaces to do their business, affordable spaces. That is being addressed. The whole matter of energy and reducing the GCT and JPS, mm-hmm. That is good. Addressing the whole thing of productivity with irrigation. I think farming is our solution right now to increasing GDP significantly. That's a low-hanging fruit. And I think he touched on that, and it resonated with me because I think the Minister of Agriculture is something I've talked about before. Is doing a good job, and he needs absolute support to get that job done by way of providing the farmers with the resources and the water to irrigate some of those areas, Pedro Plains, all those places in St. Elizabeth and other parts of the country, St. Thomas, that don't have any water to get their crops going.
Yeah.
Those programs announced will definitely, make that happen. But all in all, I think it was a good presentation.
All right, thank you, Donovan. You started off by saying it was rather long. I found it to be rather long as well. Usually, those debates close out before, say, the 7 o'clock primetime news begins, but it went well after 7 last evening. However, Kevin,
5 hours.
Yeah, 5 hours. It's a long presentation. Yeah. In fact, I listened to the Prime Minister, and it's almost like he didn't lose his voice, but you could tell that his voice was getting challenged. Yes, toward the end of it. Kevin, you made reference to the best baby father humor that was injected. Bring my listeners up to speed with that particular funny moment, and then give us your assessment of the Prime Minister's presentation.
Well, the Prime Minister's argument was that Mark Golding, the opposition leader, had claimed that some stuff was the PNP started it. And then he gave a counter argument, it started before that. And one of his funny lines was, in name Carl, but is another Golding is the father of the debt reduction. Bruce, not Mark.
Oh boy. He was talking about fiscal discipline, right? As the child. Yeah.
That shows that Jamaica is a different country, Richie. I don't know of any other country in the world where you hear this kind of arguments in the parliament. We take paternity fraud as a joke. And Jamaica is supposed to have the highest rate in the world, But
we do.
We are what we are, I guess. But as I said, it's very comprehensive, very long. As I said, you wonder if you pack too much into it, But then again, as Donovan said, the stuff, the irrigation and stuff, but there are other things he mentioned. There's a rural school bus system. Minimum wage has gone up to over $100 for the first time in the history of Jamaica. The NHT, the loan limit increased to 9 million. Interest rates lowered from 5% to 2%. You have this hope fund for the past babies, like they will have something at 18. The government is going to put some money in the accounts for them. So when they reach 18, they will have a nest egg to start, which is crucial. As the Prime Minister said, one of the reasons for the disparity in Jamaica is that some are born into money and have something when they start at 18 as adults, and some don't. So it's trying to equal, level the playing field a bit. And you have the highway extension that's going on in down St. Anne Way, the fitness change for cars, where you have, you'd have to go every year now if you have a new car.
Up to 5 years. Mm-hmm.
There's an open toll thing going to be in Mobe, where you don't have to pay the toll. You get charged while you're driving. And then the electronic land titling. And a control and command center for the police, the security forces. So it was packed with stuff. And I tell you one thing. Every time I listen to Andrew Holness budget debates over the years, I feel tired. The amount of work it must have taken to craft this speech, and the amount of work to carry out all that is in the speeches. People can say what they want about Andrew Holness, but one thing I have to say, I have never seen harder working Prime Minister. It is the budget debate, a lot of thinking went into it, and a lot of thinking about the execution. And if you're going to ask me the difference between the budget debate for the Prime Minister and the opposition leader, both had a lot of stuff in them. But you can clearly see there was much more work put into the Prime Minister's speech. Far more, it was more comprehensive and more detailed. And a lot of the costing is there. And one important thing I saw too, there's $1 billion put down for the unfortunate, the least fortunate. Mm-hmm. And I think he said 20,000, 50,000 people are going to get 20,000 each. These are the handicapped and the indigent with no one to help them. And that is a very caring moment. You're thinking of the least, the least fortunate in the country, that they are not being forgotten. And I found that impressive too.
Mm-hmm. Donovan, let me get back to you. This is an election year, and sometimes the politicians, those holding the purse strings, will want to do a little bit more, sometimes spend a little bit more, and cause an imbalance in the fiscal discipline. Did you sense that with all these goodies that the Prime Minister was going overboard, or was there some degree of balance that you sensed in his presentation nonetheless?
Yeah, not at all. And I think they were very careful not to do that because, of course, a part of the ongoing debate is just run with his argument. No, they can't be positing that in the space and then go ahead and, seeming to put in a lot of unnecessary spending for the election. So I think they were very careful not to do that. Election funding still is an issue, and I don't think that issue is going to go away. But most of the stuff that I heard announced, if you think about it and look at how the budget is structured, where the money is coming from, especially the whole issue with NHT. Mm-hmm. You know that NHT, it's common knowledge that the NHT was not utilizing all the resources that is collected from the people. The purpose of the NHT, why it was set up, was to build low-income housing for the population. So a lot of the stuff, the 1,000 increase per week for the minimum wage. It's not the government paying it. It's me and Kevin and other people paying up $1,000. So it's not going to cost the government anything. So definitely, Richard, the short answer to your question, I don't think I see anything in there that would threaten fiscal responsibility at the moment.
Mm-hmm. Kevin, do you believe any of the announcements or all of these announcements that were made will impact the government's popularity and maybe increase their chances in the upcoming elections?
We would think so. Generally, people like if our government shows measures to improve my quality of life, I get more support. And as I said, none of these measures you can't say are frivolous. All of them are serious measures to improve the lives of different people. The bus system, the park babies, the NHT, land titling. All of these will improve the productivity of the country and make people's lives better. And even we could say the big election goodie, you would say that it is for the indigent people, the one that was targeted at, which says elderly persons, youth not engaged in education or unemployment, low income informal workers, medical and negligent individuals, people with disabilities, right? Mm-hmm. They're going to get $1 billion, 20,000 of them, $20,000 to each of 50,000 vulnerable citizens. That you could say is a election vote buying thing. But when you think about it, these people really need the help. They are the lowest, the least fortunate in the country. Their hardships will be diminished. 20,000 doesn't go that long away, but if you have nothing, it's a lot, Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So none of these, you could say, is frivolous. That is not going to either benefit the country, the productivity, or help people who need the help.
Yeah,
and that is a critical thinking. And as Donovan said, the government has set a budget limit already. They can't really go over it,
Mm-hmm. Both of you, gentlemen, are members of the private sector. Donovan, are you seeing potential opportunities and or challenges for investors and even members of the private sector based on what the Prime Minister delivered yesterday?
Well, opportunities. I think those who are in transportation, the whole thing with the fitness, he addressed that. The current challenges that we have, those would have to be addressed ongoing. But like I said earlier, it's election time now, so a lot of those things that are not going to generate interest in votes are going to be put in abeyance until such time. Mm-hmm. But for the MSME sector, which consists of transportation, which consists of personal services, which consists of small manufacturing and all of that, a lot of the announcements that would have impacted those were made during Minister Favour Williams' presentation. And I'm hoping that going forward, the government will look at the bureaucracy, the whole thing with corporate governance of some of these government places. I was at a function last night for the Companies Act of Jamaica, and I must commend them for how they have reduced red tape and bureaucracy in the throughput of processing applicants' documents through that place. And they are showing an example of what we need in government in terms of the reduction of bureaucracy and red tape. And I think the government the Prime Minister did address that some way, shape or form. But those are some of the things that we need to keep up the lobby and to reduce red tape and bureaucracy. That is one of the most expensive thing that we have in our population right now.
Mm-hmm. Kevin, I was surprised at the amount of money that the Prime Minister announced was now in our international reserves. Quite an astounding figure. Do you believe that, based on his presentation again, there are financial or fiscal buffers that can help us to navigate should we unfortunately have the experiences like we had with COVID-19 or any such health disaster?
Yes, for sure. What I must mention what Donovan was saying about the red tape. You notice he put Audrey Marks, no longer an ambassador, and he put her in charge of making increased government efficiency. Mm-hmm. You know? So, a lot of the stuff wouldn't be directly for business people. You could see a more efficient and productive country coming on board, you know? Mm-hmm. But about the NIR, yes, it's gone from 2 point something to 5 billion, the highest ever. And yes, it increases the confidence that if a disaster happens, we don't have to go borrowing money, you know? Mm-hmm. So as I said, one of the impressive things about Andrew Holness' government has been the comprehensive thinking. It's not a thing that focuses only on a few things. You get a thing like a football team. All 11 men are engaged in the game. You know, not just 2 or 3 stars up at the strikers or whatever. Everybody is contributing, and all areas are being looked at. You know, even for example, another one, the security. You have 9 more boats or something to secure the borders of Jamaica, which are water borders. You know. Yeah. So as I said, there's nothing. I mean, that I could think of that wasn't addressed. That is important for the country. Everything was. That's what I said. A lot of thinking clearly went into it. This wasn't a lazy budget by any means. It was one that was comprehensive. And as I said, Favour Williams said in her budget speech, they could have run a deficit. And she mentioned that she and the Prime Minister talked about it, and her words were, we looked at the deficit spending, the possibility in the eye, we could do it. And we decided not to because of the signal that would send. So when you think of the fiscal discipline is being adhered to, and yet everything is being addressed. And I said, none of these things were gigantic enough. Most of them are incremental. Nothing here was a huge, big bag of goodies. It's building on what went before. That was the main thing, is incremental. Just like Favour Williams' budget. Both of them were very incremental, a bit more for the areas that needed it. Nothing gigantic, like no magic silver bullet was put there that we're just going to transform the country. It's a little bit in every area. And when these things add up, you know.
All right, well, let's see what impact it will have in terms of his chances at the upcoming elections whenever those are announced. Gentlemen, I want to thank you. We're going over time, but thank you very much for your thoughts this morning, and have a good day and a great weekend.
All the best.